Look at this. Somebody come look at this. Look at this. Somebody come and look at this. Look at this.
I've had some pretty amazing moments. I've been given in Afghanistan a flag, an American flag that was during the Afghani war flown over Afghanistan because I provided a really good service to somebody suffering from post-trauma. I do a 25% off anytime special for law enforcement and veterans, and I even have people in law enforcement emailing me, even if they're not partaking, thanking me for that because of all the crap that they get and all the things that they see and how well I'm trying to take care of them.
Hi everybody, welcome back to our channel. A little backstory on this though. Candace met her on the Whatever podcast. Candace went on to that Whatever podcast. And of course, there's a panel of a million girls. You know, it's not a bunch of sex workers and then a couple of conservatives on the side, right? And she was in that panel, right? But she didn't talk as much as the other girls. So she didn't agree with anything Candace was saying. Candace then invited her on the show, or she came to talk about it. Something happened, and to that effect. And she, decided to come into the show. So this is why she's even in this position right now. So this woman, Samantha, says to us, these women always say they love the industry because they enjoy sex. That's a bunch of bull. This woman needs counseling ASAP. Samantha. All right, so let's look at the video. I remember seeing this. I remember thinking it's funny how she's sitting. Yeah. She's sitting so weird.
The majority of my couples coming in are wanting to celebrate. They want to celebrate their anniversaries. And I know to you, you're probably cringing because, from your conservative viewpoint, you're like, oh, that's a terrible idea. They literally want to celebrate their anniversaries and their birthdays and like Valentine's Day weekend. It's huge for us. And that to me, it's an honor. I can think of some really hot situations that happened when I was booked for anniversaries with some amazing, amazing people. And it was really flattering that they wanted to share that moment with me. They're never going to forget me. And they probably think I've long forgot them, and I haven't. Yeah. Because of what they were celebrating. So a lot of times it's an entertainment thing as well. It's kind of like perceived as like a luxury wellness session where we can go play out this really fun fantasy, and then I'll do like a couples massage. I will do a bona fide massage afterwards. So then you have your blissful sauna stuff, and then you can go off and, they can go continue. Usually they're vacationing, they're flying in from everywhere. Yeah. Now, on the single guys, there are women, it's called the hall pass, and this is not uncommon. And it's just something that people don't talk about. But the hall pass is when, that long-standing joke, oh yeah, if you want your sex life to die, go get married, right? There's always these jokes about that. So it's like that, where the woman, and I hear story after story about it, and to be fair, maybe the man needs to put more effort into things as well. But where they're together, and she's flipped the script, and she's no longer interested in sex. And when they were courting, and, she was into it, and then she turns around after they get married and says, I don't like doing oral. That's to me, it's gross. Or that's demeaning that you're asking me to do this. And then he's getting sex no more than once or twice a month. But what they do love about each other is that if they're running a business successfully, or they love the fact that they're great parents, they don't want a divorce. But she'll say, I'm going to let you go to one of the legal brothels because they're tested. They don't have any emotions in the game. They're not going to try to steal you. They're not going to try to have an emotional affair with you. That's one of the things that when people get into these circumstances, they don't want someone to go off and have an emotional affair and then run away and leave. So the hall pass is actually a common thing. And women will email in. Women have emailed in and said, yo, this is, me and so, and I want you to know this is what we're doing.
When I hear you talk about these circumstances, and it seems like you always want to bring up the couples, you always want to, formalize it as, well, I'm helping certain people, or they're reaching out to me, and these situations are the ones that I deal with. I almost feel like you're trying to justify your line of work and that there is an element of it that is dishonest because everybody knows that the majority of people that go to prostitutes are men. And you kind of skate over that and you don't really want to
No,
talk
we can
about.
go right to it.
Yeah, but you don't want to talk about the more important elements. Like, I'm sure there are exceptions. There are people, and I don't cringe at it. I just don't consider those people to be married. I consider
most women that, and it's already known, most women who are in prostitution have been molested. They come from very dark backgrounds. Abusive. And so,
yeah.
come on, you're not fooling anybody.
No.
Nobody's fooling anybody here.
You're not a couples counselor.
You have issues.
You're a prostitute.
Okay.
You're not a couples counselor.
it to be a complete farce and a fraud, as I said on the whatever podcast. It is fraudulent to say that you are in a marriage and then to give your partner to somebody else. It means that the word marriage really has no meaning for you. And that's largely the society that we live in today, where we are taking words that once meant something and we're trying to update them and make them progressive to fit the times. And anybody can be in a marriage, even if we're not doing anything or acting like we are in a marriage. So I don't cringe at it. I just think this couple is a fraud. They're frauds. And, but to get to you and my interest in that, when you're publicly interfacing, you always talk about these couples and these scenarios, but you don't want to push and talk about the fact that men are right now struggling in this country, especially in this country, with porn addiction, with sex addiction, because I spend my time doing almost the opposite work and opening that conversation with pornography and looking at the comments of young men who write and say how hard it is for them, how sex addiction has ruined their life, because I personally know people who have ruined their own lives. No, I think it would be hard to gather the statistic of how many men want to admit to, watching pornography and being addicted to it. It's a hard statistic to grab. It is. People are not going to be honest about things that they do in the dark, right? But I can just tell you, I have entire episodes on pornography, and you are welcome to go look at all the YouTube comments of men thanking me for opening the conversation, for having the courage to have the conversation. It's the reason why they liked Dr. Jordan Peterson. It's the reason why they like Andrew Tate, because these men are opening the conversation on how pornography is actually weakening men and enslaving them, and in many ways. And so it's been interesting to me as somebody who is fascinated in how we have desensitized people to sex and how men are quite literally being slaved by an over pornographic society, rather. To sit across from you and to have you to skirt over that. We're talking about addiction, and I would hope that you would have compassion for that because you were married to somebody who had an addiction. You know what addiction means. It is an impulse that you can't fight. And it's not just the people when you say, oh, well, I turn down the ones that if they say I barely have any money, that's the guy that's already ruined his life. But what about the guy who has an unlimited resources of money? Right.
So, when I look at a woman like this, I think to myself, she's not the devil, but she's doing the devil's work. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? There's a difference. Like she's not Satan, but she's doing Satan's work. She is luring men in to be as gross as her. And because men are weak in this area, this is why, whenever we're trying to bring men to heel, we entice them with sexual activity. Yeah. You know what I mean? Most men have ruined their lives. There have been a lot of men who ruined their lives because of their sexual appetite.
There's a lot of girls on Instagram right now showing their butts because they want to lure men in, and like Candace was saying, that there is a huge problem with, I think we just talked about this a couple of weeks ago, there's a huge problem with men right now, young men specifically, and porn addiction. And unrealistic ideas about what sex would mean with a woman because they have women, these, porn stars or, sex workers are giving them an unrealistic idea about sex and not intertwining like the realism of it. And I feel like when I see women like this, the reason why I say it's disgusting, the behavior is because I know that she sees these types of men in her, when they come in and out of the bunny ranch or whatever. I know she sees type of men that are maxing out their cards and who are using all of their money. I think they have even an ATM. I think she mentioned that before. They have like an ATM in the bunny ranch where you can so she sees these people like bankrupting themselves, and she still continues the activity.
Yeah, a lot of women that have been sexually abused ironically use their sexuality to control men. I was watching, Danielle had me watch the Pamela Anderson documentary, and Pamela Anderson was molested as a child, but when she went into to Playboy, she mostly took all her clothes off because she realized that she had power over men. We also saw Amber Rose say the same thing to Jesse Lee Peterson, that when she she's on stage and men are throwing money at her, it makes her feel powerful.
And Nicole Smith said the same thing.
And then on this interview, because I did watch this whole interview, she also made a point to saying that her sexuality gives her finances, luxury, and gives her some sort of power. And this is what it does. This is the point. This point is to break people down. Forget about the sex part. The point is just to break people down.
Yeah.
Break men down, break women down. You know what I mean? When women, this is why it's important to shield your children. Because as soon as your kids, get them off the internet.
Yeah.
Because the instant your kids get a taste of pornography, it's hard to
addictive.
put that toothpaste back in the tube. Because now it's in their head. They've seen it. And so, like she's saying, there's a lot of boys, a lot of young men who are now addicted to porn because every time they turn on the internet, they're seeing some girl's butt cheeks or cleavage, or they can just go and watch just porn. You know what I mean? And it becomes an addictive, seductive thing, especially if you're, because when men are in their 40s, they're seasoned. They've been there, done that, and so they're not as thirsty as you are when you're 18.
Although they can be.
They can be, but they're not as thirsty because they've been there, done that. They've mostly had a lot of sex. But when you're 18, and you really haven't been that
active with,
and then all of a sudden you're seeing just women just willing to just without any kind of anything.
No, because it's
just show up their bodies.
Right.
It does something to them psychologically.
Well, that's the problem with transactional sex, is that when you're just giving, it's all a transaction, with money, and then I get this. They become very jaded later on, and a lot of men sometimes become angry with women because of really their own choices, because they allow themselves to be lured in by this woman, and they can't get control anymore. And men are really naturally controlled. You know what I mean? It's supposed to be.
You can see it in her face, though. You can see in her face the way she looks at Candace. Because this conversation is easy. Candace is going to win the conversation because this is absurd.
Yeah.
But if you just look at both of their body languages, she looks like Candace knows exactly what she's looking at, and she knows exactly who she is.
Yeah.
But what about the guy who has an unlimited resources of money, right? Who comes to you and says, "I'll pay anything." That's also addiction. I'll pay you this. I'll just give me what I need.
They're not all suffering from sex addiction.
But how do you know that? How do you know that? Because
they tell me what their
Did your husband tell everyone about his drinking?
Well, they're pretty honest because once you get behind closed
Addicts
doors
are
with
never
us,
honest.
I'll tell you,
Addicts are never honest. That's a part of addiction, is lying.
I'll tell you, I've had Marines and I've had Army men break down and cry to me because I offered them a safe space. My space is so safe. I have people opening up on lots of different fronts. And mom's the word. I don't ever, out my people. And I've had some pretty amazing moments. I've been given an Afghanistan, an American flag that was during the Afghani war flown over Afghanistan because I provided a really good service to somebody suffering from post-trauma. I do a 25% off anytime special for law enforcement and veterans. And I even have people in law enforcement emailing me, even if they're not partaking, thanking me for that because of all the crap that they get and all the things that they see and how well I'm trying to take care of them. One of the brothel owners over in Nevada is former law enforcement. And when she asked me to come to her tour, she called all of her cop friends. They would like to see it decriminalized. They want to go after the pimps and the human traffickers, and they don't want the girls reprimanded for this. They like us too. They see the value in what we do.
Yeah, so what I would say is that we are offering them, especially when you use an example of a former veteran giving you a flag, that saddens me.
And a Purple Heart.
Yeah, it really saddens me that someone would give you those items that have real meaning, and they would give
Why?
it to
I'm very honored.
To a prostitute.
And I'm very grateful.
I understand you're honored.
Did you know
but
that
I think that what you're offering them is a drug, so it's no different than them going to drink at a bar. Sex is addicting. So it's not for them going to drink at a bar. It's no different than them finding a drug addict, somebody that's willing to get high with them all night and snort cocaine to deal with their PTSD.
Well, that's not what I do, and that's not what any of the providers that I know of do.
I'm saying sex is in and of itself a type of drug. It is addicting. People become addicts, right? And so for you to, something that makes you so happy that these people are coming to you makes me sad, because this means that this is how they are dealing with their trauma. They're dealing with their trauma sexually by having sex with a stranger.
It's healing.
I don't think that's healing.
What about the quadriplegics that are coming in? Or they're horrible people. They're
are they
perverse.
leaving walking?
They're
Because
coming.
then it's
they're-
not healing to have sex with a prostitute.
Pulling out all. Okay, so now we're going on to disabled people. So the veteran thing didn't work. The flying, the flag for her didn't work. The discount comment, I give them discounts, but didn't work. So now we're gonna go.
What about the one-eyed paraplegic?
Yeah.
Come on. Like,
Okay.
what are you
I'm
talking
gonna one
about?
up you with all the different types of men that I have profoundly helped because of the fact that I am opening my legs to them. I am the savior of all men because of this situation, girl.
She doesn't look, I'm sure Dennis
sense.
Hopper probably told them
Yeah.
that, this is empowering for you. You know what I mean? Look at all the money you can get if you can just, get these, and by the way, I don't even believe it's those people. I think it's just men, probably, because, that's what's near, the Bunny Ranch is near Nevada. It's Las Vegas.
Yeah, it is.
And I just believe it's a lot of drunks, playboys,
So this is
just go
like-
there because it's close to it, and it's legal. I believe it's legal in Las Vegas.
Yeah,
right?
it is, yeah.
You know what I mean? To just do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They can get away with it.
So
So
I want to say that I'm going to go ahead and use that term though, pimp, in her situation as well too, because these brothel owners are just pimping you out. Now, are you getting a percentage of it? Is it different than the regular street hooker?
but I like how she thinks she's no different than the pimp.
she
Like
doesn't.
they're coming after the pimps, not the girls. They like us. No, you're also a problem.
you're
man.
also a problem.
I'm sorry that
You're
you don't want to
toxic.
see that, but you're disgusting, and someone needs to tell you that. But you need to be showered with the truth.
Right.
You know what I mean? And the truth is you deluded yourself, or someone has gotten to your head and deluded you into thinking that what you're doing is somehow sacred. And that's just crazy. Her whole, I got a purple heart, I gave a heart. Well, if you give someone who's on fentanyl or heroin and they can't pay, they'll give you a purple heart too to get the drug.
There are people.
You know what I mean?
There are people who are addicted to gambling and giving away their whole house.
There are people who give away their kids for drugs.
Look,
You know what I mean? So
sell
come
their
on.
children.
Miss me with all of this. I'm more of a counselor. You're not.
It's really
You need
disgusting.
counseling.
Yeah.
But you're not more of a counselor. You are the problem.
Yeah, you're not. Look, the only thing you're selling here is yourself. You're not selling me the story. Kara's laughing at all her papers.
What's the papers?
I watched the back. I
Papers
watched
is-
a little bit of this, and she was so sure. The paper story is that she was so sure that she was gonna have all this evidence against anything that Candace was
I
gonna
watched
say.
this, but I'm now.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've seen this,
Right.
And I'm now looking at her because this is a clip.
So she didn't-
I'm like, why does she have all these papers? I'm
She
just not
wanted to
thinking.
come armed with information because she wanted to rebut whatever Candace was gonna say, and she can't.
Right.
Candace is just speaking literally directly.
Like she's trying to be on the episode of The View.
Yeah.
They really, really want to have an intimate experience with the woman. And for whatever reason, they can't. They can't at home because they're bound to a wheelchair. We have parents bringing these kind of individuals in, wanting them to get a wellness session in essence.
Okay, well, I know quadriplegics who have served the nation and lost both of their legs, who are married and happy with children. So
That's
as I said,
fantastic.
you are-
Again, it's to each their
but
own.
but
I'm
you
not
keep
judging
mining,
them.
and I'm sorry to cut you off. You keep mining these exceptions, and I think it's because you do hold and harbor some guilt. And I think you do know that there are a
Okay.
lot of men that are broken that are coming to see you, and I and you can definitely correct me. Obviously, you think that I'm wrong here, but when I hear you talking about these circumstances, what you're describing to me are men that are desperate and men that need real healing. And you are never going to find real healing at the bottom of a bottle, a la your ex-husband, or with a prostitute.
And part of her story was her husband was an alcoholic.
Yeah, I remember
And
that.
you should have seen her trying to skate around that one because
Yeah.
I think she knew that once she told Candace that her marriage, like she gave her kid over to her parents, and because her husband was an alcoholic, and she's like, I don't drink, I don't have that problem, but you went to prostitution, so you do have something wrong.
You change one vice for another. What do you mean?
She's trying to, and she also,
Yeah.
that was another thing, like on the earlier portions of this video, she kept trying to make it seem like her husband was less of a man because he was an alcoholic, but somehow she's superior because she's a prostitute, and she had to, in her words, she had to do what she had to do to take care of her son, their son.
Yeah.
And I just think both of you are a hot mess.
Well, I think that people decide. So people say, "I'm like, I had to do what I had to do." These strippers and prostitutes and stuff that say all this. I'm like, yeah, well, when you put your integrity and your morals in the back seat, you can probably pretty much do almost anything.
Right.
Pretty much. Like she's glorifying something that's just not safe. It's
immoral. It's just, I don't know what she's trying to convey to us. That that my job is just like your job. I'm just going to work like anybody else. No.
I mean, when I go to work, I don't have to
be.
be tested every time.
Right.
I mean, what do you mean? That's really
Yeah.
weird that you're trying to. Like, you don't find it weird in yourself that you're defending prostitution. The only way you would defend that is because you're a prostitute. If you weren't a prostitute, you would be defending this.
Yeah.
You would think this sounds absurd, but because you've lowered yourself, you feel like now you have to defend it.
Yeah.
And it's just like, no, there have been a lot of times that I've done things that are wrong, but you don't defend it.
Right.
You just admit to being wrong, repent.
She doesn't feel. I can see people like her though. They seem to not ever feel like they have anything else to offer, so they choose this one thing because they just feel like, okay, well,
and her,
this is all I got.
Her reasoning is pulling out all these exceptions and not talk about the rule. So most of the people that come here are not couples having trouble.
going
Which
to
again,
Vegas.
I'm with Candace. If you're a couple going to a prostitute, you're a fraud.
Yeah.
That's just what it is, because that's just.
But the bunny
We already
ranch-
learned a lot about people trying to redefine marriage through the Will Smith and Jada Pinkett. There is a way to be married.
The Bunny Ranch is famous. So people are going there. Most of the people are going there because it's famous and they want to have sex with girls for money. They're not a slew of quadriplegics that are just lining up there. That's not a thing.
I mean, but strippers do it too, because a lot of guys go to strippers and and a lot of women will say, "Oh, well, I don't even dance for him. He just sits there and tells me about his life." I was like,
I hate when they say that.
Yeah, he's a broken man, hon.
Yeah.
The whole reason he's there is because
Yeah.
something's going on at home.
Right.
Believe me, if I was married, there would be no way I'm just gonna let you go weekly to some strip club.
Right. I love how all these sex workers.
I mean, you have a woman. I'm the woman.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, what do you mean? You
I
don't
love
need
how
to do
these
that.
sex workers all become counselors. like all of sex workers are always like explain these exception situations where they are counselors. To the men, and I hardly ever have to do that. Well, stop. Stop.
And we can play devil's advocate. Look, I get it. When women. There are women in marriages that as soon as they get married or they have a child, they stop being a woman
That's true.
to a man, and so that's why a lot of these men will go to a stripper or go to whatever. Now I'm on the man's side on this because I feel like, look, woman, you married him, and you didn't marry him just to sit around, and you got to cater to this man,
Right.
in all facets.
Sex
you got to take care of him. Sex is a big part of it.
It's a duty of marriage. Sorry.
Right, you cannot.
It is.
Look, if what he wants to do sexually, you got to work with him.
You gotta figure it out.
Because I'd rather him do it with me than go there.
Yeah, gross. Can you imagine?
Oh,
they get a hall pass. Which people they get a hall pass, and then I teach their, and sometimes I teach that he can take that teaching back home, and they can learn it together. I'm like, girl, okay.
First of all, I think that the couple needs to show each other how to love each other.
Yeah, that's not.
You don't need to add anybody into
third party makes it a mess.
Right? No, it always. And so that's the thing is like couples learn to love each other the way they learn to love each other. You got to get to know what your man needs. And he needs to get to know what you need.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of the union. If you're just going to add people in it, don't get married.
Don't get married. Why are you getting married? It's true. Why are you getting married?
You know what I mean?
What is the
I don't
point?
need any woman to teach me how to sleep with my husband.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any kind of sense at all.
Yeah.
What? And I don't even. She's over here. You got to watch the video's long, so
Yeah,
you got to
it
watch
is.
the rest of it.
This
She's
is a
all.
clip of
Sometimes
it.
women come to me and they want to show me how I can. No one.
Yeah.
If you are a woman that's having a hard time satisfying, do not go to a prostitute to teach you how to have sex with your husband. Ask your husband what he needs.
Do that first.
That's it. Ask him what he needs, and if you're a little embarrassed to do it, or then you guys have to work together on that.
figure
You don't
it out.
then go add somebody in it to show you how it's done.
Right.
That's just not a thing. You know what I mean? Just like no man wants some other guy to show, here, let me show you how to have sex with your wife.
But I would even.
You know what I mean? Who does that?
Imagine.
You know what I mean?
But I would even say, even with all of that, it's still the exception. It would still be the exception couple that would do something like that. The majority of people who she is having sex with are just regular men coming to the Bunny Ranch because they saw it on TV or they just heard about it and they're probably in Vegas having a good time. Oh, let's go have sex with some hookers. Majority of people going there are going to be that. So
Just men who do not want emotional complication, so they just want to pay you off so they can leave.
Military men come crying to me.
But that makes you feel bad. Because it should make you feel bad.
Yeah,
Any man who would just use your body for a sexual tool and leave to make you feel crappy.
And I think it does. But I think it's taking a toll on her.
No, I mean, we know it does because we're women and we understand that we're emotional beings. And the last thing we want to do is be treated like that and or some guy to leave. This is why I say don't have sex. There's no point in having sex unless you're married.
Well,
because otherwise you put yourself in a position to not even be this woman getting paid for it. You're just getting your heart broken.
The reason why that is, though, why you get your heart broken is because you're exchanging energies. Every time you have sex with somebody, you're exchanging an energy there. And that energy, it takes a part of you every time. So if you're having sex with your husband all the time, that's embracing the energy. That's keeping that energy. That's, it's engulfing it with each other. But when you're giving that energy away to multiple people over, short periods of time or whatever, and, the amount of men you slept with is the count just keeps getting higher and higher. You're becoming less and less of a person. You're starting to be a shell of yourself every time you do it because you're getting instant gratification, and you're not getting what sex is really supposed to be about. You know what I mean? Like, I think you're not getting that. So
we're not.
This woman's giving men, instant gratification, because men are sexual creatures. You know what I mean? But I feel like
she's not on some kind of, she's not on some kind of, what is it? Giving people things, but she's not doing it for free.
Yeah.
It's not a charity.
Yeah.
I mean, she really was caring about some man's life. You know what I mean? Do it for free.
That reminds me of
payment for that.
Reminds me of the this South Park. Wait, I think I have it. Because you're right. If she was doing it for free, that means that if you care so much, that means that you'd be doing it for free.
She's not doing it for free.
This.
Selling the video to them. This video can change how people think about bullying. It needs to be seen by everybody, Kyle. If it needs to be seen by everybody, then why don't you put it out on the internet for free? Well? What was the question again? If you really think every kid in America should see your anti-bullying movie, then why don't you put it on the internet for free? Get out of here, Tom. Try to go to the bathroom. Fine.
That's what makes me laugh when you said that, because if she's making it seem like she's doing
a charity case.
Yeah, some kind of good for the world. Well, if you're doing such a good for the world, this is supposed to be helping men and their lives and their mentality, then why don't you do it for free?
So she's just over lying. The truth is that
sorry,
prostitution is only profitable if you have a whole bunch of drunken men or lost men coming to you if they're having a good time or something. He said they're just paying you to leave him alone. They don't want some woman calling them if they just wanted to have sex.
Yeah.
They don't want any woman stalking them or calling them. They're just asking you to leave. That's what you're profitable for. That's your whole business is based on you walking out the door.
Yeah.
And not coming back unless called for.
Right.
That's it. But that makes you feel that's the truth.
Yeah.
And that makes you feel empty, and it should make you feel empty. It should make every woman feel empty. And I'm talking about even women who aren't doing this prostitution. If sleeping around is not a good thing. Because all it does is make you empty inside, because you feel like you're giving, and you're giving up your body to a man who does not deserve you, who's not even going to marry you.
Yeah.
This just don't do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You're just inviting, pain.
Pain.
Future pain.
And I'm going to assume that this is a woman that's probably slept around before she even got married.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. You can tell she's been through it.
So
I hope that she gets, like the lady who wrote us, like, I do think she does need some counseling. She's over here trying to counsel. She actually needs the counseling. She needs to quit doing this job and move forward to something different. But I feel like it's so part of who she is at this point that I don't think she can identify. It looks like she's like one of those people where she can't identify outside of being this person, of being this sex worker and working. No, she's identifying her work with herself. And this is a really, this is a toxic thing when people do that. When you're identifying what you do for a living and that being like who I am. It's like, no, she needs to separate that. But she seems to be so damaged.
Yeah, I mean, just this is those things that when I say, just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Right.
Everything is not for sale.
Right. I was watching when Samantha, I think her name is Samantha, when she sent us this, it made me think of I was watching Joey B. Tunes, and he talked about this girl. I'm gonna put the video up. This girl who went viral. It was an OnlyFans girl, and she's now changed her ways.
For example, remember the cheerleader in one of my old videos who was going around the school taking photos for her OnlyFans? Well, you want to talk about a complete turnaround.
I have been making tons of terrible mistakes for like the past decade of my life. To any young girls who may have been watching this and they may be thinking about starting an OnlyFans, or maybe you've already started an OnlyFans and maybe you're feeling some of the same things that I'm feeling. But if you haven't started one, just please don't.